Warhammer 11th edition is only a few weeks away from starting, so to get us all ready, I've made us a handy checklist of all the things to do to make sure that you can start having fun from the very first day. So, it is pretty much confirmed June will be the launch month of 11th edition. We could expect even more announcements and hopefully pre-orders in the next week or so, and the hype cycle that surrounds that. We're going to see lots of reactions, good, the bad, and the crazy, on terms of how the edition is, how the edition plays, once people actually get their hands on the full rules. Somebody's going to say it's the greatest edition ever. Somebody's going to say it's the worst edition ever. Something's going to be unbalanced, and there's going to be a lot of knee-jerk reactions. So I made a previous video that I'll link below to my original hype cycle video, so I won't repeat that video too much. But just know that there's going to be a lot of people with a lot of strong opinions in the coming weeks on Warhammer. And so I think the most important thing you can do to prepare for the next edition is just take a deep breath and recognize that, yeah, the game is changing. And so it's important for us to kind of keep ourselves grounded. But moving on from there, here's a handy list of stuff that we definitely don't know yet as of time of recording for the next edition. First and foremost, we do not yet know points. So making army lists can't really happen until we have the points. I think another thing that's been said but not really explained very well is we don't really know which models are getting the leader keyword and the support keyword. And this will matter because when we're making our army lists, you can attach a leader and a support to most infantry squads. And so figuring out which leaders can double up, which leaders you want to double up, well, we don't know that yet. And so that's going to change the army composition in terms of which heroes you want versus which non-heroes you want. So that's going to change things up. I know for my Space Marines, I'm trying to decide what colors to paint and which chapters to paint on which bodies. So I've got a couple of them I'm waiting to see in terms of which armies need which colors. So that does keep us in a little bit of suspense. Obviously, we don't know all the rules yet. The core rules aren't officially out yet. I've heard rumors of leaks, but I haven't actually seen them myself. But we don't know the rules until they're actually out, and they may always change something last minute because it'll be a free PDF as well as whatever's in the box. We also don't know which models are going to Legends, if any. Something's probably going to Legends. There's lots of good guesses out there, but I've seen conflicting reports. So until they announce the Legend models, we don't know the Legend models. We also don't know what other boxes are coming on. We saw that there's going to be a start collecting box, and I'm very much expecting a lot of new start collecting boxes. This next edition is going to correspond to more video games gaining mainstream popularity and hopefully a TV show. That's going to bring a lot of new players in. They've renamed the paints. They've done a lot of stuff to start making the hobby a lot more beginner friendly in terms of helping new players out. I would expect to see a lot of new verbiage aimed at new players, and even new kits and new models and new boxes and starter boxes, painting boxes aimed at new players. So expect to see a lot of that, but we don't know what it's going to be yet. And there might be some really good deals that are not out yet. We don't know what the next post-launch models will be. Very likely there'll be one or two more Space Marines and one or two more Orcs to round out both of those armies, but we don't know exactly what yet. And then the other one that's really weird to me is they haven't told us how and what it's going to cost to buy those templates that are going to go under all the terrain. They made a really big deal about it, but they're not in the launch box. And so you buy your launch box, you get your armies, but there's no terrain and there's no terrain template. So it's completely unplayable. So if it winds up being almost $300, you still can't play the game with that launch box because there is not just no terrain, but no terrain templates. So we need to see the price on those. And then realistically, there's a lot of people already printing, scratch building, crafting, whatever they want to do to make their own templates. And so we know the template sizes, but we don't actually know the cost of the templates and how available and how easy they are to get. I think some people will buy them from GW if they're reasonably priced, but if they wind up being expensive, I expect to see most people just making them themselves. So at this point, probably the decision you want to make, and if you haven't already, you probably need to soon, is decide what you're going to buy. Are you going to get the launch box or not? Make that decision before it goes on FOMO pre-order, because it's not a FOMO box. It's going to be around for a while. I would strongly expect to see it still around by Christmas time. I'm personally planning to wait until closer to Christmas to pick it up. I am not in a rush to grab this box, but I expect it to hang around for a while. But if you do want to buy it, if it's next on your hobby project list and that's what you want, by all means go for it. But go ahead and start figuring out which of your local game stores do you want to support, or do they have the full percentage discount? Do they have something else going on? Do they have a contest or store points or whatever it is? Are you going to split the box with a friend? Now's the time to start buddying up. If you're a Space Marine player, find an Orc player, or vice versa. Or are you going to just wait for a starter box? Because if there's a starter box that has only one side, honestly might be the better deal. So you got a lot of options, or you can just ignore it entirely. The rules will be posted online, at least the most of them anyways. And then it'll take a little while, but eventually we'll get all the rest of the rules that we need to play. And it shouldn't be, I don't think it's going to be too badly blocked off. But if you do have to buy decks of cards that sell out quickly, or terrain footprints that sell out quickly, I could see it being a little bit more of a problem to dive into the game early. But overall, it's good to have a plan so you're not making up your mind the week of, or scrambling on Discord the night of pre-orders trying to figure out, hey, does anybody want to split a box with me and who's going to pay? So go ahead and get that locked down ahead of time, and then stick with your plan. If you say I'm not going to buy the box, don't buy the box. And if you're going to buy the box, go ahead and save some money. Hopefully you've been saving money for it, but this is not an impulse buy. No matter how it's framed, it'll be around a while. You'll be able to get it. All of the stores will have a whole bunch of extra copies, and there's a good chance that if you wait long enough, you'll find an extra discount on it too. That's happened with previous editions. Before I go on with the list, though, if you haven't liked and subscribed, I really do appreciate it. I'm planning to make a lot more content for 11th edition, and I am trying to build 11 armies for 11th edition, which is turning into 12 armies for 11th edition. So following along with my hobby content as well as my rules and game thought content as well too is always much appreciated. So anything you can do in terms of liking and commenting and all that helps the YouTube channel grow, and I appreciate it. So next thing I'd say that you should do on your checklist is, if you haven't already, start getting ready to build some terrain. This edition, they've already given us the sizes. They are very different from last edition. I made footprints for last edition, used them for one game, and now I'm looking at them going, well, I can't reuse these because the sizes are all different. So they're on the screen here, but you can get them off of the Warcom article. And they put little bumpy kind of bits on them. They're not straight shapes. The sizes is misleading. I'm just going to say right now, you don't need to have the exact right number of bumps on all of these. It can just be rectangles and lopsided triangles or whatever, and you're going to be just fine. But go ahead and either scratch built, use plastic card, or cork. I'm going to probably use cork board just because I like the texture of it. But use something to build them, 3D print if that's your jam. But the thing I'm going to say, if you're making terrain this early into a game edition, make it modular. Keep the terrain and the actual like mat base separate. Don't print them as one piece. You want the mat separate from the base. And so if you're trying to make really cool terrain or build your own board, you're going to want some kind of play mat, whether it's a flat mat or just something to put on the table so you're not playing on a coffee table or a kitchen table. You're going to want terrain bases, these little cutouts that you can make yourself, or if you want to wait and pay GW, you can. And then, get your terrain pieces ready to go, whether you're buying official kits or getting kits secondhand or 3D printing or whatever you're doing, or kit bashing, scratch building. And then I would recommend, especially for this edition, knowing how modular it's going to be and kind of the shapes. Now that the markers are not a circle, now that they're not 32-inch circle or a 40-inch circle, millimeter circle or whatever, I would strongly recommend go out and buy some little card squares or little wood squares, and then take your basing bits and build yourself weapon caches, comm stashes, a dead hero out of extra Space Marine bits, whatever you want to do. Give yourself some objective markers that are really fun and thematic around the kind of games you want to play, so that you can mark out where your objectives are. But use a little like mini diorama to mark which building is which in terms of in terms of how you're going to score. That'll make the game feel a lot more fun. If you're fighting over a controller for a radio tower, that's going to feel a lot better than we're just fighting over the number one or the letter A on the building in the middle of the map. And so giving yourself a little bit of mini diorama projects that you can knock out in a day or so is going to make this entire edition feel a lot more fun. If you have thematic markers that you can put on the buildings, that's going to be great. And then the last thing I'd recommend you buy is get some like river rocks. I've got river rocks. I got moss. Get like debris, little bits of something you can put on the table. Like you see the big YouTube channels, like the Battle Report channels do this, and it just looks so good. But if you could get, I got some like moss pieces for really, really cheap, and just putting those on the ruins just makes the ruins look a lot more interesting. And so if you have a couple of just different little scatter things you can put around, little barrels, little boxes, little knickknacks, just to make the maps more interesting, it's gonna make the game more fun to play with your friends. At the end of the day, keep it modular. You want to be able to throw down a map, throw down the bases in the template, pile up the terrain on the bases, and then spend a few minutes decorating and put out the little markers to mark the important ones. And really, if you can get a cool looking thematic table done in under 30 minutes because you got a formula and you know what goes where, this is going to be an easy addition, I think, to build really cool modular terrain and not just play with the same L-shaped ruins that you've always played with. So put some time into getting some cool decorations for your table, and that will pay off, and you'll have a lot more fun in the next 3 years. Other thing I'd recommend working on right now for this checklist is assemble your crew, and I don't mean your models. Obviously, good time to be finishing an old army, good time to be starting a new army, but it's also a really good time to start finding a gaming group. If you don't already have a crew of friends, go ahead and start finding some people to play with. If you can find some newer players or some people who want to do an escalation league, and that's always a great way to get into the game, or some people at your friendly local game store. The other thing I'd recommend, though, is if you've got people who haven't played in a while or who are painters who haven't played, now's a really good time to get all your painting friends in. Say, hey, let's form a group. Let's all get together on the Saturday after the edition drops and just play some mini games and learn to play the game together. And so if you can get some friends together and learn the game together or do an escalation league, that's going to be a lot more fun. Now is the time to get your friends in the hobby. And that doesn't necessarily mean people who don't know what Warhammer is. A lot of times it's the friend who plays the video games but has never touched the tabletop, or the guy who paints but has never actually got around to learning the rules. And so look for those people in your hobby spaces, in your stores, and say, hey, you do a lot of painting, new edition starting, here's the rules. Do you want to come play with us? And really bring more people into the hobby that way. I think that's an awesome thing to do. And not just grabbing your non-Warhammer or your board game friends, but try to grab people who might be a little bit left out and bring people in. This is a great hobby for building camaraderie. So if you've got room in your gaming group, try to do some extra recruiting in the next couple weeks and see if you can get some more people on board and make some new friends. This is a great time to make some new friends. And then just a few reminders from my previous video. We're going to probably see some stock shortages in the next couple of weeks, especially once the edition drops. A few of the kits are going to get really, really popular. If I had to put my money on it, I would say models for the orcs will probably sell out, especially something like Gazgul. That's an older kit, but kind of a must-have if you want to build a big orc army and you want to have the big guy himself. You're going to want a Gazgul. Good chance he sells out because he's been around a while and there's a sudden spike in buyers. He may sell out. Probably going to be a handful of stuff that has really good rules that's going to sell out. Don't let it get under your skin. But if there is a model you know you're going to want to paint in the next couple months that's a little more obscure or has a chance of getting really good rules, which is most, if not all of them, go ahead and pick that up, especially if you're not buying the launch box. Now's a good time to treat yourself to that mini that you've been thinking about buying but haven't got yet. And finally, last but not least, like I said, there's buffs and nerfs are going to be incoming. No one's going to know what the meta is for at least a month. Something's going to be crazy overpowered and sell out, and then it's going to get nerfed before anybody can even get it painted. The game is going to get a little bit swingy, but that's not a bad thing. That's a fun thing. So focus on playing fun games with friends, making new friends, painting models that you weren't going to paint, but now suddenly they're fun, and really just enjoying the narrative, goofy side of the game. So I'd really encourage you just to have fun with the game. Paint, have fun, make friends, and don't worry about the meta for at least a couple of months. And then once the game kind of settles into its groove, then you can start looking at list building and finding channels devoted to your favorite army and see how they're list building and what they're doing, and then start getting ideas for what your army is going to be. And then, by the end of the year, have your competitive army ready to go if that's the way you want to play. But overall, the first month is just for having fun and trying goofy things out and reading a rule and going, hey, let's see what this does. And then if it turns out to not actually work, you laugh it off and you mix it up and try something else, especially with the new way we're going to be able to make the rules more modular in terms of kind of picking out the different things that we can bring into an army and the detachment rules. It's going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be a lot of trial and error. You're going to trial and error. Your friends are going to trial and error. So don't worry so much about who's winning and who's losing. And if you lose a couple games in a row, it happens. And it might not be you. It might be their armies, or it might just be the dice. And so keep trying stuff. Find what you have fun with, and then go from there. Thank you so much for listening. Hopefully this was a good list for you. I'm planning on making a bunch more videos, like I said, on the 11th edition, as well as updating you on my project to get all my armies built. I've been having a lot of fun collecting and building and painting. I've painted something like 50 or 60 models already this month for the month of May, but it's been quite crazy. And then I took a little break in there to go to the Warhammer Open in Dallas. So that was fun as well too. If I have time, I'd love to make a video about that. That was a really cool experience. But got lots of video ideas and not as much time to make them as I wish I did. But I appreciate every one of you who watches, and I will see you all in the next video. Thank you so much, and have a great day.